I'm going to try desperately to get all of this in. This board represents, my board, everything that you need to have. They have it all. Now, this is the Obama administration and State Department's 7 pillars of color revolution. The plan, how to use those tools, and then flip a country. All right, let's start with the first one. The first one is semi-autocratic regime. Well, we don't have a semi-autocratic regime. Are you kidding me? Have you noticed how many times people have been calling him a fascist?
I feel very strongly that this man has taken on strong arm tactics. And I feel very strongly that he
Got it. How many times have we heard this? Trump is literally Hitler over and over and over again. It's a meme at this point. There are books on it. There's daily news articles about it. And it doesn't make sense. The guy is not putting in the draconian laws, but they begged him to for COVID, and he wouldn't. So how is he the bad guy? How can you begin to make this comparison? Would Hitler have moved the embassy to Jerusalem? Would Hitler have ever been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, helping to broker the peace between Israel and the Arabs? It's so incredibly ridiculous. In fact, everything they accuse Donald Trump of being is what they do and what they will do if given power. Joe Biden called for a national mask mandate. That is unconstitutional. Donald Trump didn't do it. Why? Because he doesn't have the power to do it. He said the states have to do it. An authoritarian would have done it anyway. Many have called for Trump to send in the troops to quell the riots. Donald Trump didn't do it. Why? Because it is first a city matter, then a state matter. The government, the federal government, is the very last resort. You can't just send them in. Wouldn't that be what an authoritarian would do? So why are they doing this? Well, they need to portray an image to the American people that Trump is a despot. It's the very first step in the process, literally started on day one when he got in. The media compared Trump to Hitler the day of the inauguration. But being an autocrat isn't enough. For the plan to work, step 2. He has to be an unpopular president. You have to have at least half of the country hating him. Remember this?
I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. I am confident now, even more so than I have been throughout the last year, that this nightmare presidency of Donald John Trump will end prematurely and end soon. And I am thus also confident that this is the correct moment to end this series of commentaries.
Yeah, talk about it not aging well. All right. So what do you have? You have somebody who's very unpopular. Look how produced that segment is. Everything from the colors on the set, Olbermann's suit. The videos were designed to engage as many people as possible, to keep them engaged and have them coming back for more. Hashtag the resistance. It started on day one and spread like a wildfire all over the place. The resistance hit Trump for everything he did. He was constantly under attack by design, but it was always void of facts. It didn't matter. It rarely does. They needed to divide the base, and look around. They got it. Keith Olbermann knew that the Russia collusion narrative was full of crap. That's why he abruptly ended the resistant videos prematurely before a verdict came out. Remember, when Trump ended DACA back in 2017, the waves of protests that followed, the left was quick to capitalize on this by doing what they do best, pissing people off and getting them out in the streets. But they never provided context for what Trump was actually doing. In fact, look at the headline. Calls on Congress to act. The story wasn't Trump ends DACA. The real story was that Trump gave the power Obama stole from the Congress back to them. Who's the authoritarian in this? The one who seized the power or the one who gave it back? But they never give context because that's not what's needed. They need the appearance of Trump being an unpopular Hitler. Kind of puts organizations like the Lincoln Project and the Never Trumpers in a whole new light, doesn't it? What drives their hatred for Donald Trump? It's irrational. Or is it just part of the 7 pillars of color revolution? Next, they needed a united and organized opposition. Got to have that. Do they have it? Ever heard of Antifa? Before Trump became a GOP nominee in 2016, Antifa was small time, but now they're everywhere. This is T. Stern, an organizer with Refuse Fascism. Listen.
The ultimate vision is to for people to break with their comfort and come into the streets day after day, night after night, in the hundreds of thousands until the millions, and not leave until they have to step down.
Earlier, she had admitted that she had been given funding from George Soros, the organization that supports Antifa. Now we see in this video that the ultimate goal, and I'm using her words here, is to get thousands and millions into the streets to force elected officials to step down. Keep in mind, this was before George Floyd, and we can't forget about Black Lives Matter, the Marxist organization, something the media will never say. They'd all but died out after 2015. We barely even heard from them. But after George Floyd, like Antifa, they were all over the place. And what were they protesting anymore? It's not about George Floyd. They protest cops when people try to kill cops, like what happened in Lancaster. All of this is to set up, or the preamble. They're organizing and building a network for something much larger in December. So far, they have this one, and this one. Now they need an effective media system to convince prior to the election that there is voter fraud that is coming. Well, that's really important. Do they have any of those? They're being brought in to help. Journalist Stacey Lennox over at PJ Media recently identified this group as the Momentum Community. They're veterans of Occupy Wall Street that have trained street activists all over the country. The website lists the Marxist group they train, including working families, Black Lives Matter, the Sunrise Movement. The Sunrise Movement has been helping push the Green New Deal. Where does Momentum Community get their inspiration? Check it out from their own website. Momentum synthesizes the lessons of various 20th century movements, including the color revolutions of Eastern Europe, the Arab Spring in North Africa. Now, we got all of these. How about this one? An ability to drive home. That voting results are going to be falsified. This is where preparation turns into action. This is what's planned for election night. This is why the Democrats radically push for mass mail-in voting. It's why the Postal Service conspiracy was born. The entire reason for the Axios article I showed you earlier was meant to perpetuate it. But it's the reason why Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer also made it public that they were making plans just in case Donald Trump doesn't step down. They need to give the bottom-up street thugs a green light to let them know you've got our support from the top. It's signaling top down, ready to go, bottom up. Number 5, easy. Independent media to inform citizens about the falsified vote. Gee. What do you think? Do they have this one too? Yeah, in fact, they have something where they can just tell us, like me, if I try to tell you that this is what's going on after the election and Trump is winning, we'll be silenced. That news from an article in the New York Times I showed you earlier not only shows you how ridiculous they are, but they're playing right along with Obama's 7 pillars. They've already been prepping and are ready to unleash on election night.